I suppose. You gotta come work for me. Oh, yes. I could get you in there. You love it. Nobody tells you what to go to bed. You eat all the ice cream you want. You get the chill.
So, this is a start of Supreme Ruler 2010. The region is Islamic states. That's the capital there, Tashkent. This is the current self-sufficiency profile. The primary shortfalls are timber, energy and consumer goods. The domestic markups are all set to zero, except for consumer goods. Consumer goods is maxed out. A capitalist system will typically operate at 500 or 600% markup regularly. This 281% markup is as much as our economy can manage, but we will max that out, and it will be sufficient to stabilize our economy, and it will push money into the economy. This is the tax adjustments or tax settings for the population. The primary income taxes are all set to zero. This is a communist socialist system. There's a flat 10% tax on goods. Every other tax is set to 0%. Immigration fee, immigrants pay $1 to get into the country. Everything is set to zero, except for the primary tax on goods that you buy. Your income tax is 0%. You pay 10% for what you buy in the store, 0% on any services. That's all the tax you pay. So, a brief survey of the income and expense profile. This is the social spending. This is the money that we put back into the system. All of the recommended values have been set for each of the different social service profiles. I want to make absolutely certain that the social sector receives the funding that's required to take care of the people that need them. That's a brief breakdown. It shows that we should have a surplus of $144 million at the end of the day. That's the expense summary. It shows that the primary expenditures are production and social services at about 2 to 1. These are the construction profiles that we've got set up for shortfalls in our manufacturing capacity. The demand for products in relation to the agriculture and coal and petroleum and ore profiles are all satisfied. Some residually, but sufficiently. Uranium has such a residual demand that it's almost non-existent, and the primary shortfall that we have is timber as a raw resource. It can have a limiting factor, and electric power as a residual shortfall, which can also have a notable outcome. Consumer goods, it has a shortfall, which is expensive to overwhelm. We're building 1, 2, 3, 4 consumer goods manufacturing, and as backup, we're building 2 industrial manufacturing profiles. Military goods is another residual variance. We've started the clock. We're going to run through the first day. Our treasury will radically vary. We're selling lots and lots of military hardware, and we've managed to acquire through diplomatic exchange a large amount of industrial goods to back our infrastructure builds. Our primary infrastructure build is timber industry and consumer goods to cover our manufacturing shortfalls. These diplomatic exchanges acquire industry goods, 125K tons, and military technology to fill in a dramatic shortfall on a spectrum military capacity. We have only a very rudimentary military technology profile, so we're going to fill in a lot of gaps. Everything from land-based, basic land-based units, that's a light infantry, engineer, and PG-guided missile patrol. All of those are zero cost or zero level technologies. That's why the cost for that individual trade is so low. To ballistic missile, battlefield ballistic missile systems, basic rocket type systems, tanks, different infantry fighting configurations, artillery, reconnaissance, lots of units, unit roles that we didn't have access to initially. Most of these are older, relatively inexpensive technologies. Tandemized with the technology acquisition for lower cost sources of industry goods were available industry goods that were offered by states with excess industry goods for sale at a lower price. The analysis that was committed in relation to those diplomatic exchanges is here in this spreadsheet. These values represent the relations between the column A country and the Islamic States locale, the country that we're playing in the simulation. These raw data values are combinatorially process to generate scaling values that attempt to represent a better or a worse relationship and correspondingly the cost of exchange of technologies and goods would be higher or lower for a country that's a curve-fitting column. I can't remember what half of the functions are derived. I'm sure they don't eventually manage an exact representation of functions in game. I sure would like to get my hands on those. After a bit of analysis, we'll start at the best prospect and work our way through the available technologies. I won't be able to get this to crunch down anymore and fit. It'll be stubborn. Just doesn't want to fit. Well, we can see the technology types on the right in columns F and G, and the data associated with the units, which has been pulled out of the primary unit CSV for the simulation. That's a tank that Austria-Hungary has. We managed to acquire these different types of technologies from the different origins. I don't want to buy the same technology from 4 different countries. So we've eliminated the more lucrative deals that we've already managed, and these are secondary and tertiary acquisitions. So that's the rudimentary analysis committed in relation to these 12 or 13 exchanges. These are those units listed to attempt to garner at a lower price the technologies and the goods in question. This is the second day after the stabilization of the economy. The capacity to force domestic market on consumer goods has increased from 280% to 490%. We're going to switch on our research profile here, lock it to technology, and we're going to start researching the technologies that we couldn't manage to acquire secondhand. Again, that's a basic technology. Free fall bombs is a rudimentary form of air-launched missile. This is a air defense system, low-flying aircraft. This is I believe that's a surveillance aircraft. What was I looking for here? Those are the technologies, again, the technologies that we managed acquisition of. This is, again, the zero-level technologies. The C-131 is also a zero-level technology. Here's one that's in possession. Where'd it go? This is the PG guided missile that we just acquired. You can see that $437 for 3 technology designs is because of the level 0 technology in question. Here's in the trade, you can see that this National Guard unit that's available from the U.S. is a 0-level technology that can be purchased for whatever small amount you can manage to set this value to. Any value, $153. We'll buy that unit even though it's valued at $31.49 million because it is a 0-level technology. So this unit, this RQ-5A Hunter, costs actual value and more, dependent upon the relation that you have with the country. And if they don't like you, they'll push that value quite high. So you don't really want to negotiate with your enemies unless there's something you really got to have. So here we are. This is a current equipment manufacturer. These are the first and second manufacturer. These engineering units will be used to help build the infrastructure profile once we become self-sufficient, once we get to a point where our economy is self-sufficient and we're not relying upon surplus materials to keep us afloat or other nation states. Those are two more of the zero-level technologies. They have different sources. That's a Russian engineering unit. It's worthy to note that those little engineering units are quite handy when it comes to increasing the rate at which infrastructure is built on the map. And that's the current standing profile. I don't have any fielded engineering units at this point in time. There were none in the inventory. Center back on our capital here. There are world news, and we're going to start a regular run now. We've got the economy a little bit more stable. We don't have a critical shortage of electricity. And we're going to let our clock run here for about 4 or 5 days while everything falls into a more stable state, and our monetary reserves build. Those engineers still aren't building because we're still short on money this first day here. That should normalize. Walking through the second day, the domestic markup on consumer goods is going to generate a tremendous amount of income. That just stabilized. That went from a negative value to a positive value. I saw it flip from red to a positive white or light color. This treasury value will continue to increase. Our economy is stable and making money, and the money is being used now to manufacture that first generation of military equipment. After that primary run, the equipment manufacturer will switch over to the supply track. We're using our entire manufacturing base to push out a couple of engineers, which will proponentize things like this base building, and eventually we'll manage to develop all of these resource points on the map. I'll get out here and demonstrate the remaining standing units that we have in the field. There aren't any aircraft there, so I can't demonstrate isolation of the air transports in relation to airfields. But this is the nation that we're playing. This is Russia up here on the northern border. This is China. These are massive military powerhouses. Get an idea of just how massive and propensive. That's a tremendous population base of I don't know, can't remember if it's actually in the database as a billion or a trillion people. I can't remember. But China's a real powerhouse. It's got a massive economy. Real threat profile. And we'll keep running the clock down here until we get our infrastructure built up and become self-sufficient. Our on-hand cash will continue to increase. This is all with taxes set at completely zero and completely recommended values in relation to funding for social services and research. That number will continue to walk up. However, it will have a negative effect on our GDP. Not necessarily on our population. We have a residual influx of immigration. You can see we got 895 people yesterday. It's about 1,000 people in a day, and I don't know what we're losing due to immigration out of the country. Our build on our military units is still progressing. We've got enough money in the bank to keep that running. All of those, all of these upper 7 industries are stabilized and self-sufficient. They're making enough materials for the country's infrastructure. Timber is still short and consumer goods are still short. Money is not a shortfall, and we have that industry building right now, and it should come online pretty soon here. Another couple of 2 to 3 days. This is the consumer goods that we're building. These are the constructions that are complete. That's a timber facility it just completed. This is an array of timber facilities we built in a high yield area. These are the ones that just completed. We've got a couple, 3 there that we've got on hold for the moment. They're planned. These are the ones we just constructed. But the values have not taken effect. They won't be in play in relation to the simulation until tomorrow, and that shortfall there will disappear. And these will come, I guess they'll come online or become applicable at the end of the next day. And we'll see the supply-demand profile normalize, and the capacity versus demand will make that industry self-sufficient by the end of this day here. I'm going to go back down here and look and see that the capacity or output of the industry is 125,000 versus a 94K demand, so this has become stabilized due to the completion of the manufacture of these industry points. Consumer goods still hasn't stabilized. The 2 manufacturers that were 2 or 3 that are still completing, they're still building, will bring that, once those are complete, up to self-sufficient. It took a lot of planning to get all this together for the first day. It took a lot of analysis and planning. I got everything set up so that once we get going and moving in the right direction, we can keep that up without having to take long amounts of time. Once you know how to do it correctly and you know what you're doing, you don't have to commit analysis in the process. That's the completion of the rest of the infrastructure that will bring us into a completely self-sufficient state as per industrial manufacture and the economy. So our books are completely balanced. We're all in budget. Everything is positive in the black on the books, and these constructed facilities will bring all of these values to zero by the end of this next day here. Once the numbers manage to work their way into the equation and calculate here at the end of this day, we'll be able to demonstrate that all of the industries are now stable. All of the manufacturer capacities are in excess of the demand for the products. So the social sector, the civilian sector, is getting all the products it needs at a 0% markup, cost markup. It's actually a slightly negative value. We demonstrate that all of the industries have a positive capacity, that all of the taxes on all of the societal extents are cumulatively about 0.2%. That we've completely funded the social sector, here it is, to the recommended values. That we've completely funded to recommended values the military, and of course that's extraordinarily low at the moment. We've converted our military into infrastructure, and we're replacing that with and this is our we've developed our first technology. Our first technology has been ground out. The free fall bomb is very inexpensive, very simple, but effective and useful missile that can be fired from ground assault aircraft. It's a pretty hefty 50-point attack value for tanks and infantry units. I'm really not planning on bombing any population centers, but against hardened targets, that's pretty effective. And this is a typical ground assault, older technology that, countries with GDPs that are residual in relation to primary nation states is effective. And that's the stabilization of the little country that we've got there.